Damn weird. The Shade. The Shade is a subcategory of ghosts and is based upon the mythology and the magics of the archaic Greco-Roman world. Some interpretations of the classical works replace the original word meaning shade with a more popular term of ghost. Shades appeared in Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad, in which they were described as vanishing as a vapor gibbering and whining into the earth. Homer's shades had little interaction with the world of the living. Periodically, they were called upon to provide advice or prophecy, but they do not appear to be particularly feared. Shades in the classical world often appeared in the form of vapor or smoke, but at other times they were described as being substantial, appearing as they had been at the time of death, complete with the wounds that had killed them. By the 5th century BC, classical Greek shades had become haunting, frightening creatures who could work to either good or evil purposes. The spirit of the dead was believed to have hovered near the resting place of the corpse, and cemeteries were places the living avoided. The dead were to be ritualistically mourned through public ceremonies, sacrifice, and libations, or else they might return to haunt their families. Kind of an afterlife blackmail racket. The ancient Greeks held annual feasts to honor and placate the spirits of the dead, to which the family shades were invited, and after which they were firmly invited to leave until the same time next year. The 5th century BC play, Orestia, includes an apparition of the shade Clytemnestra. One of the first ghosts appeared in a work of fiction. There are many references to shades in Mesopotamia as well. The religion of Sumer, Babylon, and Assyria, and other early states in Mesopotamia, with traces of these beliefs, survive in the later Abrahamic religions that came to dominate the region. Shades were thought to be created at the time of death, taking on the memory and personality of the dead person. They traveled to the netherworld, where they were assigned a position and led an existence similar in some ways to that of the living. Relatives of the dead were expected to make offerings of food or drink to the dead to ease their condition. If they did not eat, the shades could inflict misfortune and illness upon the living. Traditional healing practices ascribed a variety of illnesses to the actions of shades, while others were caused by gods or demons. The ancient Romans believed a shade could be used to exact revenge on an enemy, form of necromantic magics, by scratching a curse on a piece of lead or pottery and placing it into their grave. Plutarch in the 1st century AD described a haunting, the Baths of Chaeronea, by the shade of a murderous man. The shade's loud and frightful groans caused the people of the town to seal up the doors of the building. No more baths for you. Another celebrated account of a haunted house from the ancient classical world is given by Pliny the Younger. Pliny the Younger described the haunting of a house in Athens which was bought by the Stoic philosopher Athenodorus, who lived about 100 years before Pliny. Knowing that the house was supposedly haunted, Athenodorus intentionally set up a writing desk in the room where the apparition was said to appear, and sat there writing until late in the night, when he was disturbed by the shade bound in chains. He followed the shade outside where it indicated a spot in the ground. When Athenodorus later excavated the area, a shackled skeleton was unearthed. The haunting ceased when the skeleton was given a proper reburial. The writer, Plautus and Lucian, also wrote stories about haunted houses. One of these first persons to express disbelief was Lucian, though. Lucian of Samosata in the 2nd century AD. In his satirical novel, The Lover of Lies, he relates how Democritus, the learned man from Abdera in Thrace, lived in a tomb outside the city gates to prove that cemeteries were not haunted by the spirits of the departed. Lucian relates to how he persisted in his disbeliefs despite the practical jokes perpetrated by some young men of Abdera, who dressed up in black robes with skull masks to frighten him. This account by Lucian notes something about the proper classical expectations of how a shade should look. In the 5th century AD, the Christian priest Constantius of Lyon recorded an instance of the recurring theme of the improperly buried dead who came back to haunt the living, and who can only cease their hauntings when their bones have been discovered and properly reburied. This theme still carries across commonly in current horror films. As you see, now that we know there's a ghost, we must find out what happened to them. A form of justice after death. Something I think we all feel we need. Thank you.